Oh, welcome to the Russ Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy. You figured that out because you're smart, and it's also the name of the show. We finally made it. Today is the day. Tonight is the night. The 2025 NHL Draft. Probably the most consequential one. If you've been a Flyers fan for your entire life, for the past decade, for the past few years, if you are a brand new Flyers fan because of yours truly, or maybe Snow the goalie or something else, it is a massive night. It cannot be overstated how important tonight is. I mean, I don't know. Could you overstate it? Could you say it's the most important draft of all time? Maybe that would be overstating it. Can you understate it? Sure, you'd say, oh, it's just any other draft. So maybe we should just say, you can middle state it. It is a massive night for the Flyers. They have to get this one right. I made the name of the title something I don't even usually do, giving you a little bit of insight why the Flyers must nail the 2025 NHL Draft. It's not because it's just a normal draft. It's because it is a massively consequential draft. The Flyers will enter tonight, at least as of just after noon Eastern Time, on Friday, June 27th, the year of our Lord 2025. They will enter tonight's draft with 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, of course, because one of those second-round picks was packaged along with Ryan Poehling and a 4th-round pick next year in exchange for young Trevor Zegras, who the Flyers do seem to believe is going to play center, might actually be a very good player for them. $5.75 million next year, RFA the following season. Oh, yeah, a lot of exciting stuff going on. Now, Flyers have 6 picks in the first 2 rounds. They have number 6, number 22, number 31. Of course, number 6 is their own. They finished the season with the 4th best odds of getting the number 1 overall pick. And then they got jumped twice. Once by the Islanders, who got the number 1 overall pick, and who apparently, the Islanders are apparently looking to try to get up to either number 5 or 6, maybe 7, perhaps 4, to try to apparently go after New York native James Higgins. And then Utah jumped up in a massive way to get the number 4 overall pick. There have been rumors this week that the Flyers are looking to move up. There have been rumors that the Flyers might consider moving down. There are, of course, the rumors that the Flyers are going to stand pat at number 6. Now, of course, they got number 22 in a trade with Colorado. Fantastic. Or as they say, apparently, Colorado. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to call it Colorado, but Colorado. And then, of course, they have number 31 from the Edmonton Oilers. Do I expect the Flyers to make all 3 of those first-round picks tonight? I certainly do not. Do I expect the Flyers to make only 1 selection in the first round? No. Do I expect the Flyers to punt at least one of those picks to next year? Maybe. Is there a possibility that you could see one of those later firsts along with maybe a second-round pick get packaged for a roster player that actually helps the team this upcoming season? I think that's entirely possible. Could they look to take a few of those second-round picks and maybe get a conditional first next year if there's a player who, for whatever reason, remains on the board and the team gets really excited and they want to move up? Maybe. The big thing, the most valuable thing, and you're going to see this tonight because there have been all the rumors flying, especially today, that there is a flurry of activity. This is the first decentralized draft in recent memory, right? Usually, you get all of the GMs, the presidents of hockey ops, scouting departments, everybody. They're on the floor. They're all at one collective place. If you remember last year, they did it at the Sphere in Las Vegas. It was an incredible spectacle. And following this incredible spectacle where you go, wow, how the hell did no league ever think of doing it at the Sphere before? You got to see that and you go, well, of course the NHL is going to come back to the Sphere again this year. Nay. They decentralized the draft. Now, out in Los Angeles, they are going to have a draft. And I guess to some extent, it's going to kind of look like what the NBA draft and the NFL draft look like. You're going to have a lot of the top prospects there with their families. They're going to come across the stage. They'll shake Gary Bettman's hand. They'll pose for the cameras, and then they'll go off and they'll do their interviews. But you're not going to see the frenzy on the floor of GMs darting from one table to another trying to work out a last-second trade. And instead, you have a decentralized draft, which means that everybody's going to have their war room in their respective places. And I see a flurry of activity, kind of like we typically would see on the floor at the draft. So I'll put the comments up over here by Bucky. And you can fire those off, and I'll get to as many as I can. We're on a very abbreviated show today. I have a meeting, and then I have to get myself down to Atlantic City because, of course, as part of this decentralized draft, the Flyers decided to have their war room, their HQ, everything they're going to do is going to be out of the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino down in Atlantic City. Now, they're hosting their own draft party. Snow the goalie is going to be not embedded in the war room, but adjacent to it. We're going to have a bunch of guests on. I can promise you that if you were going to watch the TV coverage of the draft, you're certainly more than welcome to. I would tell you that you're probably going to get significantly more insight around the Philadelphia Flyers by checking out the Snow the Goalie show. We will have some people. I can't say who exactly. I know who they are, but we're not supposed to announce it ahead of time. But there will be people from the organization that will have an impact on who ultimately gets drafted. Those people will be on the show tonight. There are going to be people from around the organization who might be in the room but might not have quite as much say. They'll be on the show. We'll probably pull on a few of our favorite media personalities. They'll be on the show. There may be some alumni in attendance. We may pull them on the show. And that show is going to be a lot of fun. And we're not going to do it in front of a big crowd. We're going to be doing this from the comfort of, I found out, a very nice area of the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. Very excited about that. Make sure you tune in. We're going to start at 6 o'clock, and it'll go through the entire first round. Now, the reason I bring all this up, and the reason I bring up the decentralized nature of the draft, is because no one really knows what it's going to look like. Is it going to lead to a bevy of trades? Is it going to lead to more motion and more movement than we typically see at a draft? I don't know, but what I do know is that based on the rumors that are flying today, based on those last-minute reports, and I talked about this on Thursday's show, the special Thursday edition, Porter Martone and James Higgins both confirmed that they've met with the Flyers. Martone said that he met with them last minute before flying out to L.A. Higgins said that after the Combine, he actually met with the Flyers in Philadelphia. Now, does that mean actual Philadelphia? Did they bring him to the soon-to-be Xfinity Mobile Arena? Did they take him to Skate Zone and kind of do like the old Matvei Mishkov thing? Or was he playing air hockey with some of the guys? I don't know. I'm sure if he gets drafted, we'll find out. There are a lot of things going on, and there are names being floated out. The Islanders, as I mentioned earlier, they seem to be about as active as any team right now because not only do they have the number one overall pick, but there's this rumor floating that the Islanders want to get back into the first round of the draft, and not just in the first round. They want to get up into the top 7, top 8, because they apparently want to get that shot at getting James Higgins. Now, in fairness, I think it's kind of crazy. I think it's absolutely nonsensical and somewhat insane to think that they're going to be able to get in there. God knows what a package is going to have to look like for them to get back into that area. But you also have this going around with the Islanders as well, and I want to throw it out to some reporting being done. This was aggregated by BR Open Ice from Chris Johnston, who works as an insider for The Athletic and TSN Hockey. But the Islanders are apparently in the midst of deep trade negotiations with the Blues and the Canadiens around Noah Dobson. And that has been a name that's been floated out there for quite a while. An RFA doesn't sound like there's been a lot of movement there. It doesn't sound like the contract demands have been met. Now, listen, in fairness, could the Islanders match an offer sheet? Sure, they could. But it's entirely possible that they're so far apart, they don't really see a way to get to that number. And so maybe you see the Islanders move off of Dobson. Is that enough to get a top 7 pick? I don't know. Depends on which team. Does a Utah, for example, say, well, number 4 pick was found money. The number 4 pick isn't something that we ever thought we were going to get. Is Noah Dobson worth that to them? If they do the evaluation of where they think these players are beyond, let's say, Schaefer and Misa, does getting that number 4 overall pick, which is kind of in that Desnoyers, Frondell, I guess Martone, Higgins, O'Brien, that group, does having one of those picks outweigh the value of potentially having a guy in Noah Dobson? Does he fit their timeline better? Does him fortifying the blue line help them more than whatever that player is going to be? I don't know. They're the only ones who can answer that. Could you see Chicago decide to trade out of number 3? I don't think so. But could you see them move out of number 3 to go after Dobson? Would seem not. Now, both of those teams, as I mentioned, aren't the ones that are considered finalists. That includes the Blues and the Canadiens. So maybe these are separate deals, and assets that get acquired for Dobson are then going to be flipped to try to get into that top 7. So the Islanders appear to be active. Utah, we've known for quite a while, have certainly had conversations about moving out of the number 4 spot. There have been rumors circulating that perhaps Chicago could look to trade out of number 3. What does that mean for your team, your town, your Philadelphia Flyers? It doesn't change a lot, right? Because Higgins is the name that people seem the most enamored with, and Higgins seems to be the guy that people want to see fall to the Flyers at 6. But, had Adam Kimmelman on last week, had Jason Murtitas on this week, right? Or was that last week? All the weeks are starting to blend together. I think Murtitas was the beginning of this week. neither of those guys seem to think that the Flyers are committed to Higgins if he's there at 6, that you could see them take an O'Brien, maybe even a Brady Martin. And then in the last couple of days, you've seen potential smoke screens, but definitely this belief out there that Brady Martin is not even going to fall to number 6, that he might end up getting taken earlier. There is a very high likelihood here, like a legitimate likelihood, that a guy that you didn't expect to fall is going to take a tumble. Now, I don't think Frondel's going to be that guy. Would certainly be interesting. I don't think Misa is going to get skipped over at number 2. If he does that send the draft into a little bit of chaos? It could. If a team decides to reach, I think that we could probably all agree, just based on some scouting and based on some overall reporting on the player, Brady Martin is probably a stretch in the top 5. But if a team does that and maybe a Denoyer falls, or maybe you do see a Higgins fall, or somehow Frondel just ends up on the outs for God knows what reason, and he's available. If you're the Flyers and you look at acquiring Zegras and saying, all right, he's going to be one of our centers, we have Lashenko in the pipeline, let's go and get Porter Martone as the top winger, bring some size. All these things are in play. Now, I don't think the Flyers are going to go totally off the board here and take a defenseman at number 6. I think it's highly unlikely. I think that there's a very solid chance the Flyers look to trade up from 22. Could be to go after a defenseman who starts falling. It could be to go after a forward that falls. And as many of you know, if you've been following me and you've been on this channel with me for quite a while, you know that I've been trying to manifest Roger McQueen falling to 12 or 13, Flyers trade up. Maybe they hand off the 31st pick and the 22nd pick, and then maybe a conditional pick or something else. Maybe a roster player. Go away a Cam York. I don't know. Figure it out. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think McQueen's going to fall nearly far enough for the Flyers to be able to do anything, nor do I have any intel that the Flyers are actively evaluating the idea or the market of trading up for McQueen. This is just me thinking, I like the upside. I like the frame. You give it a shot. Now, I am going to go out to the comments here for a little bit. Now, also worth noting, again, Snow the Goalie Show tonight, live from outside the War Room at the Hard Rock Atlantic City Hotel and Casino. We will have a ton of guests. There was somebody who asked over in the comments section what's going on at 12:30 on the Snow the Goalie channel, because if you're subscribed there, it was Allison. Asked what's happening at 12:30 on the Snow the Goalie channel. There was an episode from earlier this week. It was a crossover episode, Snow the Goalie and Flyers Daily, where Ant and Jason Martinez did the bulk of the show from the DuPont Country Club, and it was the Flyers alumni golf outing. So they had people on the show. Bill Meltzer was on there for a good bit. Bundy is on there. Mark Howe is on the show. Mike Knuble was on the show. Paul Holmgren was on the show. There were a few others that were also on there. So that episode is just kind of like floating out there in the ether. It's there as like additional content, kind of get you hyped up for the draft. I was originally going to like punt that to next week, but then there's stuff in there about like theories and predictions for the draft. So it wouldn't have made a lot of sense to release it next week. So you kind of get that as a bonus episode if you're looking for that kind of stuff. That'll hit the Snow the Goalie YouTube channel at 12:30. It'll be available in the podcast feed whenever I get to it between now and leaving for Atlantic City. So there's just a lot of hockey coverage. And by the way, while we're plugging all the other shows that are part of Joy Media, Phightin Words dropped a new episode today where they talked about the Phillies getting swept by the Astros. Again, you can understand why I'm having a hard time buying into the Phillies, even after the winning 2 out of 3 over the weekend and temporarily having the lead in the NL East. Bad series against the Astros, just bad. But at least the pitching was great, but the lineup stinks, and Dave Dombrowski seems to be happy with his lineup. We like our lineup. It's a good lineup. We think it's a good lineup. We trust in our lineup. Okay, Dave, cool. Temu.com, Mr. Rogers. All right, let's go over to the comments really quick. I got to be out of here by 12:30 at the latest, so if you have a comment, a question, a concern, drop it in there. I'll treat this almost like a mailbag sort of things, and I'll try to pull up as many of the current and updated rumors as we can. So, Video Guy Amadeo, who is going to be down in Atlantic City, says, oh, yes. Greg Bondarenko says, good afternoon, all. Today's the big day for Flyers fans. Robert Walnut wants you to whip out your Richards for James Higgins. Okay. Chris Freed says, having a cheesesteak is that high stakes or ho stakes? I've never had that. I don't know what that is. I know Hog Island in Phoenixville. I don't know what ho stakes are. Russ, are you still doing that cheesesteak series? I think I might this summer. I didn't commit to it, but I should. I really should. Robert Walnut said, let's get for Higgins trending in the chat. Flyers Purgatory here says, anybody but Martin. I do think that like of all the picks the Flyers could make, the only one that is really going to piss off a lot of the online Flyers fans is Brady Martin, which might not even be fair. I talked about this yesterday, but like There are the Mike Richards comparisons out there. There are the Sean Couturier comparisons out there. I'm not exactly sure that either of those are really fair. But, man, people are really down on Martin. It's funny, like a few weeks ago, everybody was down on the idea of O'Brien. It seems like people have kind of talked themselves into it. They were down on the idea of Desnoyers, and now all of a sudden they're kind of back in on it. Or maybe they're in on it for the first time. It seems that Brady Martin's the one that has the ire of the Flyers fan base, at least the very online ones. Anthony DeGrazio says, give me O'Brien, Hagens, Martone, move up for McQueen. I agree. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Can you imagine a scenario here? Like, listen, it's not going to happen, right? Can you imagine a scenario where Hagens or Frondell, I don't see a way Frondell falls, but can you imagine if one of those guys falls to 6, the Flyers take them? You get this like dynamic hockey player, a dynamic center, and then they do get frisky later on in the first round. They move up and they go and get another center in McQueen. Or maybe they trade up. I think what's like a non-zero chance is they trade up and maybe they do try to fortify the blue line. Maybe they do think that like, all right, we like Oliver Bonk. We think that Jamie Drysdale is a long-term piece here. We like Emile Andre. And they say, all right, they go, all right, we could probably afford to upgrade the blue line. Like, I still think there's a non-zero chance that at some point Risto could get dealt. That is contingent on them bringing in another big body to replace him because they don't want to be too small on the blue line. I still think there's a chance that Cam York isn't here long-term. They might sign him to a bridge deal. I have no idea. I have not gotten the indication that they're particularly close on a contract. Their other RFAs have signed. York is the one that, going back to the end of the season, the gap that I was hearing between the team and the players' camp was pretty significant. So if you don't want to meet those numbers, you don't want to go to arbitration, do you make a trade? Like, I would say Cam York is probably the most likely of the current roster players to get dealt. Maybe not tonight, but maybe by the end of the offseason. And I could be wrong. And, of course, they just brought in Zegras, who's really good friends with Drysdale, but is also really good friends with York. Do they want to blow that up right away? Maybe, maybe not. That really shouldn't have an impact, but it's a possibility. Connor Allen asks, what the hell happened to the wall? I addressed this yesterday. So I upgraded stuff. All of the posters, all of the newspaper front pages and everything that I have, I've upgraded all of them. And they're all lying on the floor behind the camera. So they're there, and I was going to have them up here by today, and then it didn't happen. And then I realized I have to leave a lot earlier than expected to get to AC because it's not close to where I live. And apparently people take half days on Fridays and traffic gets really bad. So I've got to get down there in enough time that like we can be set up and ready to go with the show at 6 o'clock tonight. So by Monday, I expect everything will be on the wall. And if not, I don't know, it's not going to be great. Brian Knowlton says, all right, Russ, happy Friday. Don't know how much of Snow the Goalie I'll be able to catch. Off to a show at Ardmore Music Hall. Enjoy that. However, we'll do my best as a Snow the Goalie faithful. Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Jerry says, as long as the Flyers don't take Frondell or Martin, I think I'll be happy. I'd love to know why you don't want Frondell, because he's a guy that many think could be taken in the top 3. Would be interested to know why. Jerry says, if the Flyers move up to the Penguins' 11th overall pick for McQueen, I'll be ecstatic. Is that if they move up to the Penguins' 11th pick for McQueen? So if they make a trade with Pittsburgh, I don't see that happening. Nick DeChristo says the same thing. No way Pittsburgh trades with Philly for pick 11. And he says the only way that I think they'll get McQueen is by getting the 11th pick. That might be right. Greg Bondarenko says, we'll definitely be watching Snow the Goalie tonight. Thank you. I said this the other day, and I think I said it on Snow the Goalie. I know that PHLY is doing a big party at Chickies and Pete's. I know that Broads is doing one, and I think it's Glassboro at a Chickies and Pete's there. If you go to either of those draft parties, have a lot of fun. If there's another one that I've somehow missed, like enjoy it. There, I mentioned at the top of the show, there's the one down at Hard Rock in Atlantic City. When the show is over, you certainly can shoot a message or a tweet to me and Anthony or intern Andrew. Like, we'll be on site somewhere. I do plan on taking my wife to a very late dinner, but you know, if there are people who want to like meet up with the Snow the Goalie crew, we'll be around. We can't bring you up to where we are, but we can be in the same general area at some point. Let's see. Brian says, I appreciate the fact that this decentralized draft opens the market for shows like Snow the Goalie to have coverage like this, but I also enjoyed the drafts being held in league venues. Yeah, I mean, this is last year. I was like, you know what? I think the next thing that we could do, the only thing that we could do to like make the draft coverage better would be to be on site. Now, this is a little bit different, and I certainly didn't want to go out to LA just to like go chat with the player and fly across the country. Not my thing. But there is, like, I guess, a nice element to that. And the people that we're going to bring on the show who are going to be able to give some insight into why the picks were made the way they were, I think it's going to matter. I think ultimately, like, that's where you're going to get the best insight. And there might be some people making their first time appearances on the show tonight. So just throwing that out there. CMZ says, I really hope Briere and Flair don't galaxy brain the pick. We're all going to judge it no matter who they take. There are very few players that I think could fall to the Flyers at 6 that is going to get, like, anywhere near unanimous approval. Higgins might be that one. Like, maybe Higgins is the guy that people for the most part would go, all right, he was supposed to be the number 1 overall pick, like, as of a year ago. Cool. There are going to be some who are going to say that he's too small. I don't know if there is a unanimous pick at number 6 that's going to, like, get the entirety of Flyers Twitter hyped up together, but gotta think it's something. Let's see. Anthony DeGrazio says he wants Martone move up for McQueen. Nick DeCristo says, if Rondell goes number 2, no way Misa gets by Chicago at 3. I think you're probably right, unless you offer Chicago just a boatload of assets. And that's the question, right? So if Chicago at number 3 has the option to take Misa, right? Or they could get bigger on the wing and give Connor Bedard a legitimate bigger target, a bigger wing at 6'3" in Martone. Will Martone then be available at 6? Probably. So if you're the Flyers, do you say, if Misa falls to 3, do you say to Chicago, here, take 6, 22, and 31? Is Misa worth all 3 of those assets? I'm not sure that he is, but if you think internally that he is, well, then there's your trade. Or is it 6 and maybe 22 and something else next year? Is it 6 and 31 and something next year? You have to imagine that they've all been doing the internal math on this one, right? Doing the calculus to decide how far up you move. Mr. Bo99 says Martone move up for Aitchison, guy that Adam Kimmelman was really high on from NHL.com when he was on the show when I was up in Toronto. So I guess was that last week? Man, the weeks they're blending together. Amadeus says Sharks are going to pick Rondell. Reminds me of when Carlson went before Fantilli. Maybe. Andrew Fawcett says whoever they pick, it will be a player who plays hockey. That is a great point by Andrew Fawcett. Great point. Let's see. Tim Brennan over on YouTube says anyone but Martin. We shall see. Let's see. Steven says, will Trump make a special appearance in AC? Danny, I hear that you're thinking about taking Brady Martin. I don't know how we feel about Brady Martin. Martin sounds very similar, and if you add an A, it becomes Martian. Elon likes the Martians, but Elon said some not very nice things, and I never liked the Brady bunch. We always liked Alice. No one was ever too nice to Alice, were they, folks? You can't take Brady Martin. But James Hagan seems like a nice guy. Nice guy. He was the number 1 overall pick a year ago, and you don't lose talent like that, do you, folks? You don't lose that talent, so we think that might be a great pick at number 6, or maybe you move back to number 9, and you take Buffalo's pick, and maybe a chance at Gavin McKenna next year. Could be a great idea. We'll see how it goes, folks. We'll see, won't we? Won't we? That would be really funny. Although I don't know why he would show up in AC. You know, drafts out in LA. Unless it really is if Trump goes and knocks on the door and starts to accost Danny Briere and company after they make their pick. Listen, we'll send intern Andrew out with potato cam to catch it. That would be sensational stuff. I don't know. I think it would be pretty wild. Let's see. I see a bunch of other comments here. All right, I'm going to try to do a real fast rip through these before I have to go. We have 4 minutes left. Jerry says Frondell is in a bad organization when it comes to development in Europe. A lot of dump and chase seems to lack creativity. Okay, that could be a reason. Let's see. Landra says 2 of the 3 guys on Chicklets have the Flyers taking Martin. Ryan A says the pick is going to be Jake O'Brien. His coach is Danny's buddy Jay McKee. Possible. Let's see. Connor asks, can we have dinner with Russ? No, sorry. But I appreciate the want to do that, but no. Let's see. Jacob Height says, trade up for Misa. If he's there at 3 and you could somehow convince Chicago, then cool. Rob Wyatt 84 says, hey Russ, will Snow the goalie have access to a war room camera? I don't think so. At least right now, I don't think we do. I don't know how much they're going to even let the internal Flyers team shoot video within the war room. If we can get access to a camera, though, which I can't imagine we could. We'd have to be able to guarantee them that the camera's muted at all times, because otherwise that would be bad, very bad. I don't think so. But again, we'll be in such close proximity. I wouldn't be surprised if one or two of the people who are in that room end up over on Snow the Goalie after they make a pick. Again, I can't tell you exactly who. Let's see. Cobbs over on X says, does everyone get unanimously mad if they take Brady Martin? I think a lot of people will. Mr. Bone says, more importantly, Russ removed the background photos. Aura. It's not Aura. It's just laziness to get them back up there because I have to use some nails and some other stuff to hang the stuff. I can't rely on the Scotch tape anymore. You know, the old background here with all of the newspaper stuff, like I put that up temporarily when I first did the announcement of this show like a year ago. And I was like, I'm going to get around to it. And like, you probably noticed this, but they were like crooked and everything because I didn't use the level. And so I was like, well, this time I'm going to use the laser level and I'm going to make sure everything looks really good. And now we're far enough into it where like I'm actually kind of mad at myself for not having it ready today. So that'll have to be Monday that everything goes back up. Okay. Brian Knowlton says, the way Danny is doing things makes Chuck Fletcher seem really asleep at the wheel. Correct. I mean, think about it. A few days ago, Danny Briere says publicly that the price for a 4C is like a top 6 wing and a draft asset, right? And then he goes a few days later and he acquires Zegras for a bottom 6 forward, a second round pick, and a 4th rounder next year. There's a lot of misdirection. And remember, like while the Flyers had been rumored to have interest in Zegras, like this did kind of come out of nowhere and caught people off guard. When the Flyers want to do something, they are typically very good at keeping things leak-proof. They are very good at making sure that the names they're actually interested in aren't the ones that you ultimately see them go out and acquire or draft. And it remains to be seen if that'll happen again this year. Let's see. Amadeo's saying that he'll go do potato cam, so we might have to figure that one out as well. Ryan A says, Kevin Kurtz brought up a good point on X. Flyers didn't meet with Lashenko last year. Don't read into meetings. Could be fair. Mike Swither says, did you see who ESPN has us taking at 22? I don't know what to think of that. And in fairness, like a lot of these mocks and a lot of the player rankings, you have to remember, mock drafts are who the prognosticator thinks that team will take, whereas the player rankings are just their big board of best available at that spot. Let's see. Landro says, I won't be mad at all if they take Martin. Not at all. I would take Martone over him or Higgins. Okay. Interesting. Fawcett says, Danny's the magic man. Joe Papel says, Fletcher Mort was an outright failure and the other GMs knew it. I think you're right. Listen, I got to go. I have a meeting. I'll be back tonight over on Snow the Goalie, 12:30. So that Snow the Goalie Flyers Daily crossover is about to go live over on the Snow the Goalie YouTube channel. I will be back with this show. I might do like an emergency Saturday episode to recap the draft. At the very latest, it'll be Monday. But we'll have Snow the Goalie live from outside the Flyers War Room at the Hard Rock Casino in Atlantic City tonight, 6 p.m., Friday night, 6 p.m. on YouTube, Facebook, and X. Join me, Anthony, intern Andrew. Video guy Amadeo is going to pop on. We're going to have a bunch of people from the media, have a bunch of people from the Flyers organization, maybe some alumni hopping on as well. It's going to be a long night, but it's going to be a great night. And now we need to see, will Danny Briere and Keith Jones nail this draft? We know that they need to. Will they get it done? Don't worry. I'll shoot it to you straight once the night is over. Talk to each and every one of you over on Snow the Goalie for the draft show tonight. And in the meantime, I've been Russ Joy. This has been the Russ Joy Show, but you knew that already because it's the name of the show. I'll talk to all of you very, very soon. Enjoy the NHL Draft. Talk to all of you very, very soon.